Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Wolf, and more I'm finding that I just need to shut my brain off in order to enjoy pony life. The more I try to think about the details, the more I try to remember characters from the G4 series, the more I try to make those comparisons, the more I'm confused and the more I'm not sure I really like this product. But the more I just relax, the more I just breathe and take in the hyperness of the show itself and just enjoy the jokes, I'm actually having fun. And that's kind of hard for me because just shutting my brain off, especially when it comes to My Little Pony, which I have analyzed for years, that's a tall order. But every time I am able to step back and just enjoy the spectacle, it's actually a lot of fun. Oh goodness, this show just keeps going back and forth on me. First couple episodes, I had a hard time dealing with just how hyper it was and how go it was all the time. Second pair of episodes, I actually had a lot more fun because I was able to relax and it seemed like the pace was just a little slower and easier to manage. Third set of episodes, I think I really enjoyed the first one and had a hard time wrapping my head around the second one. But let's start from the beginning here. The first episode here, Three Bad Things, I think it was called. And it's basically about Rarity giving into superstition. Because Fancy Pants tells her, oh, well, bad things come in threes. And Rarity spends the majority of the time just panicking over how much this bad thing is going to affect her stroll with Fancy Pants. And honestly, it's a fair idea for an episode. I mean, yeah, we've seen Rarity get overly stressed about big things and little things in the past. But again, I really need to separate that this is a different show with a very different tone. They are trying to use the same characters and the same voices and some of the same personality traits, although they are very simplified in that respect. But it's still kind of hard for me to separate the two, because again, there are some parts of the show where they are trying to get you to feel nostalgic for the G4 series. And they are banking on the fact that you know these characters and a lot of their quirks. Which is another thing that I find interesting about the series, is that they don't spend a lot of time explaining. It's very little focus on this is how the world works and this is how these characters work. It's more like, let's just get into the conflict and have a lot of really quick jokes along the way. And hearing Tabitha St. Germain just go all over the place with her vocal performance here. I mean, especially the parts where she's getting into an argument with herself and the really gruff voices. It's obviously supposed to be like a Gollum impression. And yeah, it was really fun to watch that scene. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again because it's just something that sticks with you. But on the other hand, they're making Fancy Pants more like Blue Blood 2.0. I mean, it's almost like the show writers have watched the G4 series and just tried to mash a couple of characters together and see what falls out. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just feel taken aback by some of the decisions here. Although again, as long as I'm willing to shut my brain off and try not to think about it too much and separate the two shows, it is still a lot of fun. I mean, the moment where Rarity steps back at the end and says, "I don't like you." And that's pretty much it. Going into this story, I thought, well, Rarity is obviously going to learn that superstition shouldn't dictate her life, and as it's pointed out, stop focusing on the negative and live in the now. Yeah, it's a fair way to teach a lesson. Although I certainly had more fun just seeing all these different characters being exposed to a dark truth about themselves. Sprinkles can't fix everything. Of course Pinkie Pie would never be able to accept that. But Fluttershy knowing that, oh, you have a dark power within you. Nothing I didn't know already. I get the sense that Pony Life is just focusing on how Fluttershy, which occasionally had a dark side of her pop out in the G4 series, is sort of the basis of the jokes going forward for her character. I mean, even in the second episode, Hyper Helper, Pinkie Pie asks her to make an angel food cake and Fluttershy answers, well, I just go for a devil food cake instead. Kinda hard for me to get used to that dynamic between these characters because a lot of their quirks and personality traits have been so super simplified. And again, I think that's an aspect of the show itself, because everything is just go, go, go. Let's not explain things, let's just move on to the next scene. But like I said before, I don't really think the second episode here was all that great, because there was less focus on the jokes and more focus on, well, Pinkie Pie just wants to help every pony, despite the fact that she is supposed to be rushing to the studio to do this reality show right now. And much like with Fancy Pants and Blue Blood kind of just be merged together in order to make a new character trait, I kind of think that they were trying to take aspects of, say, Fluttershy trying to help everyone all the time and put aside her own needs and put it into Pinkie Pie instead. And also combine it with sort of the same conflict from Too Many Pinkie Pies in the G4 series. And yeah, it felt very predictable right from the get-go. And honestly, I was expecting, well, when Pinkie Pie and her friends make this truly magnificent cake, that Celestia will automatically enjoy it and everything will be forgiven and move on. Except no, wait a second. There's actual consequences for trying to come up with something on the fly and having all of her friends help her to make this cake. And for a moment, just for a moment, I thought, wait, okay, this is a bit of a tonal shift, but I wonder where they're going with, hey, actions have consequences when you've procrastinated everything, and you can't expect everything to turn out to be hunky-dory just because you want it to. I wonder what they're gonna do with it. Except, wait, no, okay. Even though Celestia disqualifies Pinkie Pie, it's only a minute later that she gets a letter, oh, we want you to be a part of this spin-off TV show. What was the point of that? I don't get that. I guess it's trying to mess with our expectations, and yet at the same time I'm like, why did they do that? And then I have to remind myself again, just shut your brain off, try not to think about it, and just enjoy the spectacle. And yeah, there are certainly a few jokes here where I was laughing out loud. More from the first episode than the second episode, although in the case of Rainbow Dash suddenly being sick and having Twilight to tell her, go wash your hooves, and at the end everyone else is telling her, go home and rest. I don't know if that was intentional, that, oh goodness, the real life implications of what they're showing here. I don't know if it was intentional. I mean, it was only a few months ago that this whole world pandemic just became our everyday lives, but looking at it now, whether or not it was the intention of the writers, I have no doubt that there's going to be a ton of fan art about Rainbow Dash and coronavirus, and along with Gollum Rarity, I guarantee that's what people are going to remember most from these two entries in the series. All in all though, it's still kind of hard for me to just separate the G4 series from Pony Life. It's kind of hard for me to just shut my brain off and stop analyzing all the little details. But whenever I am able to, it's still fun. Pony Life will always have this hyperactive element about it because of this go, go, go pace all the time. But I am slowly getting used to it, and while not all of the jokes hit bullseye, the ones that do land actually make this show worth watching. In short bursts, at least. In the meantime, though, I would like to hear what each of you think. Given that we've seen a few different episodes of a few different characters and consistently overactive style to the show, is Pony Life growing on you over time? Or do you feel that the more Pony Life goes on, the more it's pushing you away from these characters and the environment? Let me know, because as always, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.